Welcome to this edition of the Douglas County School District Growing Together podcast. We will be talking to leaders, educators, specialists, and community members about topics that matter to our students, our schools, and our community. Let's jump into this week's episode as we grow together.
Hi everyone, we're here today with Tony Jakowski, the principal at Mesa Middle School, and also Mary Murphy, who is the social entrepreneurship teacher at Mesa Middle School. Welcome.
Welcome to you too. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's great to connect with you guys both remotely. I hope that you're safe and healthy.
Yes, we are. We are. Thank you for that.
Well, I had the chance to meet earlier with some teachers at your school and also some students at Mesa Middle School. And I was so impressed, and there was just so much information and so much to talk about. I wanted to come back and bring both you and Mary together to tell me more about the program, more about the ongoing needs of the program, and just find out a little bit more that we can share with our listeners. So last time we talked to your teachers and students, we really focused on the program that one team in particular is working on with the global awareness and social entrepreneurship. And can you just kick us off, either one of you, Tony or Mary, and tell us more about the program that our listeners may not have heard?
Yes. 3 years ago, Tony Jakowski and I sat down and created a vision to create a global classroom team at Mesa Middle School. And the vision was that this program, Global Classroom Program, would immerse students in cultural empathy and global citizenship through international partnerships. We also looked down the road at the implementation plan, creating a 5-year implementation plan that would begin with a small group of teachers who were willing to become part of the pilot program for the Global Classroom team. And then by year 2, create this team of teachers, obviously with the 5 core content areas of language arts, social studies, math, science, and wellness. And then moving into year 3, how do we scale this to offer this to all students at Mesa Middle School, which thus became the social entrepreneurship program. And then by year 5, creating a model that scales it 7 and 8. And then now next year, and I'll let Tony talk about this with the 6th grade moving into Mesa, thinking in terms of the complete middle school articulation of grades 6, 7, and 8. And with the creation and more importantly, the implementation of these 2 very unique learning opportunities for middle schools, we really have redesigned the traditional educational experience by bringing students and bringing to the classrooms authentic and real-world learning. And then our students also being introduced to and utilizing the design thinking protocol. They begin to address local, national, global issues, incorporating the UN 17 Sustainable Goals. We have currently partnerships with schools in Rwanda, India, South Africa, and England. And I think more importantly, it's really Tony, his vision, his onboarding of these programs by his desire to really bring the international baccalaureate global education to life at Mesa.
And I would piggyback on that. You know, as an international baccalaureate school running a middle years program, that global mindedness is key. You know, how do we help students understand what it might be to live in a different location, a different country, possibly second world, possibly third world, and the challenges they face. So being an IB school, that's a key focus area. And for a middle schooler to show empathy towards another culture or another situation, we want to develop a cultural understanding of what it's like to live somewhere else or be a citizen in a different country in a different part of the world. Because as middle schoolers or as people as in general, we tend to focus on our experiences and what it's like where we are. And, you know, dealing with situations in other countries, it can be very different based on where they are, the challenges they face. So we looked at some of the pieces or some of the intended outcomes was really to develop that global mindedness, that empathy piece, and also that cultural understanding piece. And what we've seen through the work that's occurred so far is those have been outcomes, successful outcomes, in seeing what it's like around the world. the key piece in the engagement, as Mary shared, was that real-world problem solving. They're collaborating with counterparts overseas, and they're working to identify problems that exist, locally, globally, and they work to solve those issues based on collaboration with those sister schools in places like Ireland and Rwanda. So the collaboration and the community that's developed between our school and the schools overseas has been, tremendous. And students, talk about an outcome that we really anticipate. Students are working to really a higher level because they're looking to basically present in front of their peers. And I think when they do work in school, they want to do well and they want to present their ideas and their final projects to teachers. But working with their peers, we've seen this higher level of work because they're not performing, but they want to work with their peers and show, what we can do in the United States and Castle Rock and Colorado.
I love that students are noticing that really the impact that they're having is a little bit on display, and they're rising to the occasion. I think that's a great, like you mentioned before, an unintended consequence of this. But Tony, I want to know a little bit about, Mary mentioned articulation of students coming into the school new this coming school year and coming into the program and aligning with your other 7th and 8th grade programs. What does that look like for incoming students?
Sure. We had a 7th grade team that really took this idea and ran with it. Mary supporting the team as a whole. And, this is morphed over time on our plan from the very beginning and working with within what we're able to do within the building, because we still have to align with Tyler academic standards. We still have to prepare for CMAS. And what this team has done is they've really done a phenomenal job in looking at sort of the content piece and also combining it with innovation so students are succeeding in every level, whether it's from the innovation lens or the content lens. And with this team moving forward the way they did this year, that team next year will be moving to 6th grade. Next year we will have 2 schools. Yes, next year we will have 2 schools moving into our building to join our 7th and 8th grade model, and that would be from Sage and South. We'll have 6th graders from both of those schools. So with part of this team moving to the 6th grade, they'll be able to incorporate what we've done over the last 3 years in now with the 6th graders as they transition into the building. With the team they left, there are still 2 people on that team, and we're going to look to hire additionals to support that team in continuing with the global classroom. In addition, we've also identified 8th grade teachers who can move forward with this plan as well. So something that started out as really just, 2 or 3 people on a team of 5 is now evolving into all 3 grade levels. And it's going to take work and it's going to take time, but we're imagining in another year or 2 where these students can be exposed to this learning opportunity at all 3 grade levels.
I love that model. And do you have students that also have some leadership opportunities that mentor those incoming students or mentor others as they're moving through the program?
So we do. We're looking, as we scale to the 8th grade in particular, to have students who experience the Global Classroom program on the Glacier team move into cohorts on the 8th grade team that will be beginning the implementation process. So these students obviously will be the mentors for their peers at the 8th grade level, helping them and guiding them through this process of, creating the day in the life cultural videos, which kicks off the program in the fall, and then moving into the Skype and sessions and using the platforms for Microsoft Flipgrid, Microsoft OneNote. They will begin then to work as a group of leaders at the 8th grade level to design and help facilitate those conversations, the international Skype sessions, and their familiarity with the UN 17 sustainable goals and the global issues that they've been working on, where they will be able to support then their 8th grade peers in these discussion groups. We are working with the 2 8th grade teachers over the summer. When I say we, it will be the current 7th grade teachers and myself to help design this curriculum, this vertical curriculum that will then take 7th grade and move it into 8th grade. The focus of this 8th grade curriculum will be more in setting and engaging the students in experiential learning. So hopefully we will be able to, in the fall, as soon as possible, have the students go on field trips to actually look at and investigate these issues as they live in the Castle Rock community, the greater Denver community, and throughout the Front Range community. So students will actually begin to go to these areas, for example, homelessness or communities that are experiencing clean water issues, and they will actually begin to work with the experts in the field. That is our primary outcome for the curriculum at the 8th grade level. We are hoping, both Tony and I have, and Nikki Brock, the 7th grade teacher, 2 years ago, put together a international trip for our students, and at the time we were focused on Ireland, and we're hoping to resurrect that opportunity for our 8th grade students, looking at an international trip in the future where they will be able to go over to this school, experience the week of education in the school, and then hopefully go out into their local community and look at the issue that they've been working on for the school year.
For part of this class at the start of the year, students had the opportunity to learn about some of the local issues in Castle Rock. And Mary and her team worked on a field trip where these students had the opportunity to meet with the Castle Rock Mayor, the Castle Rock Police Department, the Castle Rock Fire Department, and a number of other local organizations to see what challenges we were facing as a community so they could hone in on the area where they felt like that was something they were passionate about and wanted to work to solve or address. So that was a key piece in sort of rolling out that leadership piece for them. They had the opportunity to have conversations with these individuals. That you think about, a 13-year-old having a conversation with the mayor of Castle Rock and posing some pretty challenging questions. I sat in on a session. I was like, oh, my goodness, that is a challenging question. Phenomenal job to that student. And really seeing, okay, what are these local issues? And through that piece, that helped them hone in on what they were passionate about, identifying a local issue. And then throughout the course as well, they've also been put in opportunities where a few months ago, we held interviews and the students were working on their prototypes and refining what it might look like. And they had the opportunity to interview experts in the field. So again, we had police officers, we had doctors, we had school staff, all who were in their own right an expert in the field. And students would sit down with these experts in the field, pose questions, share what they're working on, their process, their prototype, and elicit feedback from those individuals. And those were all student-led. So again, here you have 13-year-olds and 12-year-olds and 14-year-olds sitting down with experts in the field, sharing their prototypes, leading the conversation, and asking for that feedback. You look at the level of questioning and the level of engagement during this process, it was phenomenal. But those were leadership opportunities and opportunities to collaborate with peers and also experts in the field throughout our community that, I haven't been witness to at the middle school level.
Wow, that's amazing, Tony and Mary. It definitely sounds like an entire community outreach, and you need community support to make this happen. What other types of ways can the community help to support the program?
Well, one, as Tony mentioned, we had experts who came to Mesa. We had a total of 60 experts from the business world, from nonprofits, from organizations that support a variety of agencies throughout Colorado. But then more importantly, the students were able to connect with these experts throughout the course of the year. Where we're finding community involvement is supporting these two programs, Global Classroom and Social Entrepreneurship, is when these experts and community members have an opportunity to connect with our students one-on-one. So a student, for example, I had several students who were working on ocean pollution. It was just very difficult for them in the beginning to actually conceptualize the issues going on the in the coastal regions of our country. So what we did was we had an expert who filmed a documentary for Netflix called Chasing Coral, actually came to Mesa Middle School and brought the ocean to our classroom. He had a phenomenal presentation. Right away then the students became passionate about this issue because they had an opportunity to work one-on-one with Zach Rago, who filmed this documentary and was able to bring the artifacts into our classroom. That type of one-on-one experience and interaction with these professionals just sent their passion and their involvement and engagement through the roof. The outcome of that experience last fall, I had a group of students who right away formed a committee, and they started collecting plastic from all over the school, from lunches and from their homes, and they turned the plastic into jewelry, into keychains, into cell phone covers, and they began to sell that during the lunches at Mesa Middle School to make money to give back to Zach Rago's nonprofit organization. It was the most infectious solution to an issue, especially since the issue is nowhere near them physically. But they did learn from the outcome of that experience that our headwaters in Colorado are the beginning of the ocean pollution issues. So several other students then began to design and prototype nets that they can put in the the Plum Creek waterway right here in Castle Rock. And they are in the process, even now, even though it's online learning, they're in the process of putting their prototypes in the Plum Creek River to test it. So this is the type of engagement and, as Tony pointed out, the leadership that these students are taking on to address these issues.
It's so exciting to hear that our middle school students are taking on that kind of just impactful projects. I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of the work that you guys are doing.
We've had a few students who have been recognized either locally or by organizations. We had a young lady who was part of the program last year who actually did a TED Talk down in Colorado Springs and spoke about her project and the work that she's done. We've had other students be equally as successful. We had one young lady who developed a sensory chair for autistic students, and we were working with her to identify a company or organization that would move forward with prototyping that chair. So we've worked with a number of organizations and businesses in the area who are also taking notice and looking to support our students, whether it's with an expert in the field or actually looking to support them in development of a prototype on what they're working on.
So you both mentioned remote learning, and obviously we're in a time of unprecedented change and engaging in remote learning. How does this look different for this program and for all of your students at Mesa Middle School? How are you guys adjusting and transitioning?
For my students, Erica, probably the skill acquisition that I'm the most proud of with these 140 students in the social entrepreneurship elective is that they have become solutionaries, as I call them. So when they started out working on the global issues and then how those global issues are relevant or how they live respectively in our local communities, they took the issue itself and delved into the problem-solving pathway. So how do I know what the problem is? How do I know where it exists? And using design thinking, who or what is the affected population? I am now seeing that transfer over into this current situation, whether it be the health crisis, whether it be how do we support those who are working on this current issue. And they have right away selected different pathways in order to address this at-home prototyping experience. Some of them are continuing along with their prototypes that they developed back in, December, January. Others have switched gears, looking at their families and how their families are adapting to this stay-at-home order. So they began to interview family members so they could empathize through the experience, and now they're developing ways that the family can adjust, whether that's coming up with new recipes, healthier recipes for them to cook, games for their younger siblings. So it's really covering a myriad of opportunities for them to empathize with the current issue, and then how their family is adapting to this new lifestyle. And then more importantly, how can we begin to reach out and support and thank our healthcare workers and their current situations. A lot of them are reaching out to personal family, friends, or relatives who are healthcare workers, and they right away through the empathetic process are helping and supporting with their family needs. So I've been so proud of them and the stories that they're telling me through the assignments that I'm giving them. Every Monday, we start the week with what we call the conversation of the week. and the students are sharing the stories of their family experiences, their personal experiences with online learning and this current health crisis. So I think if anyone were to read their message, their voice right now, you have to know the impact of global classroom and social entrepreneurship. These students are rising to the occasion and rising to a new level of problem solving that I never anticipated as a result of these two programs.
And to add to that, the focus of this team has really been to develop empathy and collaboration and really work to develop a family where students are understanding of others who might be in slightly different situations. So when you look at this team and you look at the work they've done, that empathy piece and that understanding piece has been huge. It started out in the beginning of the year with a field trip where they went to an area local in Douglas County, and they went to a field trip where it was called Powered by Diversity. And that was really the start of developing this sort of team atmosphere among 150 students, which can be difficult to do with a class that large or a team that large. But it was to develop those relationships, to have students get to know one another so that moving forward, they had that solid foundation of understanding of we're in this together and how do we get to a better place, whether it's as a team, whether it's on a project, whether it's on a test, how do I get to a better spot? And some of the outcomes in regards to this work, this school or this team is really leading the school in some of these efforts. One result of this team and their work is a club was created called the Changemakers Club. And this developed as of the work they were doing with social entrepreneurship and also the Pathway Project, where these kids came together every Wednesday, created a club, and they're really looking to better the school and better the community. And projects range from cleaning up the building to identifying a local organization to support. On Administrator Day, the students actually, for each administrator, came up with a photo, and there was a bear on it, and they gave each administrator a gift, just recognizing who they were as individuals. So, again, you talk about an outcome that was not expected. This group, out of that team, is now doing work for the school level, for the community level, and it's been really neat to see the students take on that leadership role, create this group. And the teacher who runs the group really is just there as an advisor to support and facilitate these students who sort of lead the charge in what they want to do. If anything, sometimes it's reining them in on projects that are doable during the course of the year.
The positive impact is just that you keep describing is just astounding. Really, you guys are to be commended, and I know the teachers on that team have done so much work, but you, your teachers, the students are all to be commended for such an impactful program, or two programs. Before we wrap up today, is there anything that you want to share that I haven't asked about that would be good for our listeners to hear about?
We were recently invited to the Colorado Institute for Social Impact. They have an annual awards ceremony called the Prism Awards, and the CEO and the COO of the Colorado Institute for Social Impact invited us down because they had come to Mesa during our subject matter expert day, which was back in January. And they were just absolutely blown away by the work of our students in both social entrepreneurship and the global classroom. So they invited us to the Prism Award, which took place on March the 12th. And they recognized us as the only middle school in the state of Colorado who's cultivating young social entrepreneurs. And I think not only was it a credit to Mesa Middle School, but it also is a credit to the students and to the empathy, but also the culture of our school district, that we as a district recognize that we need to start moving our students in the direction of problem solving for the future. And really the vision for that. And what is that vision? And once again, I keep going back to this. It's a real credit to Tony Jakowski to have a group of teachers or even someone such as myself come into his office and say, we have an idea. And for him to not only just look at the idea and say, you know what, this is good for kids, let's do it, go ahead, but to give us the resources and the tools and the opportunities to then put this in place and to full implementation. So, you know, I can't sing the praises of my boss enough, and I want everyone to know that we are leading the state when it comes to these types of programs for middle school students.
I appreciate what Mary Murphy has said, along with the team of Nikki Brock, Lindy Anderson, Chris Weiss, Alice Adetoy, and Jessica Kinsey. But really, my role as administrator has been simply to say yes to their amazing ideas and really work to knock down roadblocks. So the situation involves something with the schedule. How do we work around that? So while I appreciate them giving me credit, it's really their work and their ideas, and then the school and administrative staff working with them to say, is there a workaround that we need to do? How do we support you? What is this going to look like? And then within the confines of the schedule, or if it's budgetary, how do we work within those confines to make this happen? So I appreciate all their accolades, but it's all of them doing the work, and it's really been them leading this program. One piece I'll end with is, in regards to the work they're doing, our students have developed a sense of family, collaboration, empathy, unlike I've ever seen in a middle school or at a middle school level. Working through that design thinking process, really getting to know their teachers and one another at the start of the year, with putting all that time into that, and that being the focus, they've really done an amazing job in developing that in their On the Glacier team and with the social entrepreneurship class. And through the design thinking process, part of that, you have to do empathy interviews and get to understand what the end user is feeling, what it looks like, how we can best support them. And by working with schools overseas, working with and collaborating with experts in the field, with the mayor, with the Castle Rock Police Department, with nonprofit organizations, our students are being exposed to perspectives different than their own that normally they may have not been exposed to, and it's widening the lens at which they view the world. And I think that's a key piece, right? We don't always need to agree. We can agree to disagree. We can agree, but they're being exposed to other ideas, other perspectives that's helping them grow as people, but also as learners, and also as experts in the field as they're looking to solve a problem.
What a great message that was, Tony. Thank you for sharing that perspective. And I would say to both of you, Mary and Tony, the recognition that you're receiving is well-deserved, and you guys have both put in so much work in supporting your students and teachers. Again, I'll say it again, but the work is impressive and impactful, and I just am so pleased and honored to be able to hear more about it today and speaking with you guys.
Well, thank you, Erica. We appreciate this time and opportunity to share these amazing teachers and students and the work and the vision at Mesa Middle.
I appreciate the time as well, and of course, our students are best able to share the work they're doing. It's always nice to hear from the adults, but I think when you're looking at impact, hearing from our students and what this is doing for them and how they are becoming leaders in the community and working to solve problems they're passionate about, I think that speaks to the work that we're doing.
Agreed. If our listeners wanted to find out more about your program, do you have any resources that you might suggest or any website that you might share?
I would encourage them to contact the teachers and individuals who are running the program at Mesa. Typically, at the end of the year, we also have a presentation night where students present what they've been working on. With remote learning this year, I'm not sure what that's going to look like. So I think it's always powerful to hear from the students. So if we can identify some students to have conversations with adults who are interested. But I think a key place would be to start with Mary, Nikki, and the rest of the team in regards to this work, because we're developing a curriculum, if you will, in regards to our work around social entrepreneurship, but also with the team. But that's a work in progress. So that would be my suggestion of contacting the team.
Great. Thank you for that. Well, again, it has been my pleasure to talk with you both today, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you very much, Eric. We appreciate your time.